I'm recording. I'm gonna full screen. Oh, hold on. Let me make sure I'm recording in the right format. Output it should be. Where is it? MKV. Yeah, that's the right format. Okay, all right. I'm ready.
All right. So, Junker Queen, what's your job on Junker Queen? What are you trying to achieve?
High wound up time. Or do you mean
Wound
like
up time. Okay. Like I'm just asking generally. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, what are you trying to do with Junker Queen?
brawl? Look for an advantage. I mean, I guess like the engage is usually getting a knife on a squishy, pulling them in, landing the axe, and trying to chunk him down.
Okay.
Playing corners quite tightly.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Okay. What about creating space?
Like how? Or
Yeah. Like, what about creating space? Are you
uh,
looking to create space?
Yes, but I'd say it's kind of different to the way that like Reinhardt would make space in a brawl, because Rein makes space by pushing from corner to corner using shield as cover, whereas Junker Queen makes space by putting pressure on squishies and forcing people back, and then obviously you can kind of chunk down Reinhardt in close range.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Junker Queen
Okay.
kind of just she lives.
What What about when the squishies have stabilized and come back? What about them? What if they stabilize and come back?
You just disengage, play around the corner, get your knife back, get your axe back up.
Okay. How about trying to land a kill on squishy?
You land a knife on a squishy that's out of position or can be pulled into an out of position area.
Mm-hmm.
You swing at the axe with them,
Okay.
and if you need to disengage, you shout to get out and stabilize, and
Okay.
use the wounds to heal yourself.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Um. uh, 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 uh. Is there anything on our team we should be paying attention to? Is anything any concern on our team?
Yeah, I haven't got very much healing
Okay. Yeah, that's one thing. Okay. Absolutely. Why don't you have a lot of healing?
because Mercy's going to be with the Pharah and Ash, and the Zen is going to be pretty much my only source of healing.
Okay. So you're gonna have low healing. Okay. Okay. Is there anything else on your team you should be paying attention to?
When the Pharah and Ash are engaging. Well, I guess more when the Pharah is engaging, so I can go in with her and maybe get a pick.
Yeah, I would say not as much, but yeah, there's potential there.
When Ash lands a
So,
headshot,
yeah, we're getting closer, but not
dynamite.
really. Oh, we were getting much closer, but not really.
Um, when they can engage on my push.
No, no, no. There's a character we're forgetting here.
Oh, Zen Discord.
Send Disco. Ah, bingo. There we go. All right, send Disco. Okay, awesome. So, anything we should be paying attention to on the enemy team? Anything we should be?
Susie.
Mhm.
Susie.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else?
Abilities, or can it just be anything?
Anything?
Ryan has got a big shield that is
Mm-hmm.
going to make it hard to land a knife.
Okay.
And
Do we have
he's
anything that can help us deal with the fact that he has a shield?
a gun,
Other than a gun?
a big axe that goes through his shield.
Ah, okay, yeah. Okay, awesome. Right. Let's leave it at that. Let's take a look at the gameplay. Now that we have a good baseline of what this should interesting look like.
What the fact are you saying? Interesting, the fact that I shouted out spawn, or
No, no, it made a sound. You won't hear the sound though because I'm full screen sharing. The sound was just kind of bugged out. Like the skin. Okay. Like the initial engage. Poking a little bit. Okay, we're waiting a little bit, getting the first knife out. We have our shout here.
should be going on the cast.
Okay. We get a kill. So the Reinhardt charges in here and stops his charge around here. Do you think potentially that there's an angle for us to either path through inside and speed onto them with axe, or just simply speed from main with axe onto like a Cassidy or something like that, so that we make it harder for the supports to focus on the Reinhardt, and that we potentially land a kill? Do you think there's an angle for that after charge?
Yes.
Okay. So like walking through here and walking onto them, maybe even reserving your shout because you can path through open. What do you think about that?
Yeah, probably should have done that.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. I would say spamming Reinhardt is not super valuable. It's a bit more valuable because you have Discord. I will give it that. But I think in general, it's not what you should be looking to do.
Could also knife soldier on high ground.
Hmm. Good. Should we be going on the Rhine here?
No, go on Kiriko.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely right, because Reinhardt is probably not dying here. And you should probably not really be in brawl range of a Reinhardt with Kitsune and damage boost. Well, heal boost, but you know what I mean. Is this a good ultimate?
It would have been a good ultimate if I landed it. But because I didn't
Would it?
know.
Would it be?
They don't have Suzu, so they wouldn't have been able to heal anybody. And I would have landed onto 4 people and been landed around Mega.
Okay. Would it have been a good Wazuzu? It would have been. It would have been. Okay. It would have been good if you landed it.
I didn't realize that if you can change direction once it's initiated.
Ah, okay.
So I tilted to the side, not realizing.
Absolutely. No, it would have been good. You swing that thing a lot around. Just look at the thing you want to axe. Don't do 180 axes.
I know, I'm trying to swing to catch them because I pull them in with knife and I feel like they're at the arc of their motion when I'm popping axe, so maybe I should be holding axe a little bit longer so they're less unpredictable.
The cone is rather large on axe, so you don't need to like swing in order to try to get it. Just look at them. You just pan to the general direction. You don't have to like flick all the way around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, the cast time of like the axis, it's a fairly long lingering animation as well. You have time to just move it into them. Instead of shouting early to get over to the choke, what about shouting in choke and then axing a couple of people?
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially since now you get reduced cooldown on your axe. The more people with each person you land. So if there's an angle for you to instead of closing like the distance from perfect safety to here and then kind of run out of everything like as you want to go in on them and they go back out, you could have just moved over here, shouted in. They couldn't really do anything. You have the speed advantage. Land your axe. And then even then, You might even just be able to get back out again, because you might not even have done a whole lot, but now at least you put some amount of pressure in there. Payload pushes a bit that way. Reinhardt probably either pushes into you or pushes that way too. Either way, it leaves back a few people that you then kind of want to go with. The thing is because you don't play a brawl team right now, you're playing a poke team, essentially, with a brawl tank. You don't really get to outbrawl them. They will outbrawl you just alone, just like these three characters here will make it so that they outbrawl you in like close range. So you don't want to go on the Reinhardt. The only reason it's been working so far is that there's a Discord on the Reinhardt and he's isolating himself like crazy. If that happens, go for him. Like, he's inting, right? But that doesn't happen. There's plenty of opportunity for you to just go onto a squishy and then just make the squishy stays not so fun anymore. And you close the gap with Shout. And you put pressure with Axe. Being able to close distance in cover and close distance quickly. Kind of think about your Shout like a Lucio. Like you're playing like a Reinhardt. You play corner to corner. Your Lucio speed is your own Shout. And the objective isn't to play on the next corner. It's just to go from a corner to someone you can land Axe on and put pressure on while being able to go back to safety again. So what it would look like in reality is you'd play, if we do like a top kind of perspective, and we do this because we don't actually care about the current positions. If enemy team is playing over here, and your team is playing here, you'd play in a position like this so that you can speed over here to land an Axe on a squishy somewhere around here, and that person either dies or backs off further. And what you want to be looking to do then is you want to look to just either just play that corner, like you just back into that corner position, because you want to just make sure that you're waiting for your next Axe, which is why it's really important to get a hit with the Axe, because that reduces the cooldown. And you're also waiting for your Shout, either to potentially just fully stabilize and go back to your team, or to put out more pressure and go in. It leaves you with options, right? But corner play is really important, like corner to corner. Or it could even be corner to corner. But the point remains the same. Corner play is still really important, just like Reinhardt, just not for the same exact reason. Because you rely on that rushing down, but you don't want to have lost any health. You don't want to have lost any resources by the time you're ready to rush. So, in other words, path from here to here, rush from here to target, use whatever you have, path back, and if it's like not a favorable fight, but like you have to stabilize further, you can just give up more space. Corner to corner, always corner to corner, until you're able to push all the way. Same goes with this fight here, right? You're kind of just waiting for that, like, you're trying to get that, like, pressure out, especially on the squishy, especially on, like, the Kiriko, because you can force Susu, and if there's no Susu, you can just outright kill her. Like, she doesn't have TP, that is. But she doesn't really have a good TP target because they're all stacked on top of each other. If you're going to throw a knife at a Reinhardt, throw it above him so that it falls down to the ground below him, so that you can drag it through him on the way back. Don't throw it directly into him. So in other words, like, just throw it so that it would land, like, maybe up here, because that way, if you move like a little bit closer or like you aim it correctly, it goes like through the Reinhardt on the pullback. Whereas if you just pull it directly into him, it's just going to stuck in the shield. And then we get no value. What do you think I want you to do right now?
Go into the window and isolate a squishy.
Go into the window? Okay, once we're here, what do we do now?
We can either knife Castle, we can knife Kiriko.
Okay, we can knife 2 targets. What can we do other than knifing it?
Can we drop down, axe it, and then commanding shout to get out?
I absolutely think we can. I think that's a brilliant idea. Especially because what happens if Reinhardt decides to go and deal with that?
He's not as fast as us because he doesn't have speed and we do.
Not exactly, but what happens if you go and make a little bit of that play? We go
My
and
team
axe
can
this.
exploit them because they don't have a Reinhardt in the front line.
So what exactly? Look at how much, like, if the Reinhardt decides to go and deal with that, which he kind of has to, because otherwise you will just deal with these individuals, right? How much space do you create for your team by doing that? How much can these people take?
They can take that corner probably.
Exactly. And take all of that. You create all of the space for them. And eventually, when Reinhardt decides to do go for you, that's where corner play comes in, right? We've just been chilling under corner, being ready to just get ourselves out. That's the way you should be thinking about fights. Unless you have a brawly team. You don't have a brawly team, so you can't just... If you have a brawly team, the answer becomes a lot more simple. You just run straight forward into them, and you just stick to a target. You literally just... If you have like a Lucio, Bap, and you, and like a Cassidy on your team, you legitimately just speed onto Soldier, and you don't stop going on the Soldier. You just axe him, you melee him, you knife him, and you're chasing him around, and then you win off of that by just brawling down a target and rushing down a target. You cannot do that, yet alone in composition, because you don't have brawl, you have poke, you have distance, really. But also because there's not going to be that level of coordination in a diamond lobby, random diamond lobby. It's not going to happen. So you need to find the value yourself, right? That's a major difference between scrims and comp, is that you need to find the value yourself. Mm-hmm. Could have probably, instead of trying to land the melee for added bleed, could have probably tried to go for the shots. You could have landed the shotgun shots a bit better there. Like I think we rely on the fact that we can just melee and it's kind of like easy, but like there was a potential for you to just pick it off with your gun. Do not underestimate the value of your primary fire. It's actually fairly good. Another thing is that Rampage does the biggest bleed. Your axe does the second biggest bleed. Your knife does the third biggest bleed, and your melee does the least bleed because it's based off of the base damage, right? Which means that if you already have an axe on top of them, bleeding them, and you're refreshing it with a melee, you're not getting a whole lot more damage out of that. Whereas if you land a full mag of your primary fire shotgun, that's burst damage and it's more damage, and there's a chance they die. So in other words, don't substitute melees for primary fire because you don't want to aim.
I thought bleed stacked now. I thought that was part of her buff that made Junker Queen so much more viable. I thought that her bleed stacked on top of each other.
It's not the point, though.
Oh, but they do though. No, I'm not trying to question, challenge you. I'm genuinely. Do they stack now, or?
I would actually have to look that up. I am not entirely sure. But that's not the point, though. The point is that bleed damage is damage that ticks down over time, and especially when they have a Mercy who heals over time as well. That means that if you're doing insignificant damage, you're never going to get them dead. You want burst damage, right?
Yeah.
So that melee on top of your already axe damage is not going to be nearly the same as simply just a well-placed shotgun to the chest that will remove the last 25% of their HP. In an instant, right? Especially because Mercy heals like 50 from 50 to like 60 or something like that. I forget the number, but she heals more under 50%.
Yeah.
Okay. if we do not have our axe and intend to put it in our Reinhardt, we don't ever want to be close to a Reinhardt. We don't want to be in range of a Reinhardt
Don't
unless
pull
we're
him in.
landing axe. So that's a bit of a we get lost in the sauce in the fight, I feel like.
Still trying to fight
It's
a Reinhardt instead of just
still
going on
trying
a...
to find a Reinhardt. And I was going to say, the most logical thing for you to do here is just to W until you can axe something, and then you use your shift to get out again. Because the thing is, the most like the worst thing you can do right now is to shift in and axe, and now you're just kind of stood there and you're dead. Because in a team environment, you kind of want to speed everyone on top of the same target, but in this environment, you're just speeding yourself around. Like it's just very much a personal speed. Like you're not getting this Zenyatta, which also doesn't make any sense because it's a Zenyatta, but you're not getting them to go in with you. It's just a poor example, but point remains. I don't even need to mention it.
Yeah, I should have just rotated through high ground rather than trying to walk up.
Absolutely. Okay. Team ends up winning.
Wasted shot.
Good play. That's a good play. We could have potentially, avoided the charge, but other than that, good play.
I was trying to
I
give over
think
half to Zan, but
that's fine. That's fine. That's not what I'm going to be concerned with, though. The thing is, like, the thing you mostly could do right now is you could try to pull Reinhardt away a little bit. That's going to be very difficult, though, because first of all, it's resistance, and he's just going to walk right back, right? But what about if we path to Kiriko and just, make her intentions of healing this Reinhardt a lot harder for her? Would that be good, and why would that be good?
because she is no longer going to be able to heal Reinhardt, so my team can melt Reinhardt while he's got no healing, and then I potentially even kill their support, and then they're down tier, and we are now winning the fight.
What happens if the Mercy is forced to go and help the Reinhardt? Because the Kiriko can no longer help the Reinhardt.
And the Mercy's going to die too. And the Soldier
Yeah,
no longer has pocket on high ground either, so Soldier can die.
exactly. It's almost amazing how much value just going for Kiriko can give you, right? That's why it's really, really, really detrimental. And I know you already know this, but I'm going to hammer it into you until it keeps happening, that we never default into enemy tank. Sometimes you're forced to. Sometimes it's even the best play. But we never assume that we go for the Reinhardt because it's easier to put yourself into the Reinhardt. Do not ever substitute good play for comfort, because this is a comfort play. It's Reinhardt is the biggest thing in front of me, and I know that I can at least get some value by trying to plaster the Reinhardt, but you also know you can get more value by going for the more difficult play, but you are getting lazy with your approach. Don't get lazy. It's very important to play and think actively. Never autopilot. So for all of that fight, we had a pick, we had all our cooldowns, and we had decent support and DPS positioning. And all Reinhardt did was he stood still here. That's the only thing he did. He just stood here and he swung on you. There's every opportunity in the world for you to go on either of these targets. Even the Mercy. These two ones probably would try to just get away. These two ones can't really do a whole lot. And you might say, but Reinhardt is going to go for me. Okay. Well, he has to land a pin, and you have an ability that makes you move faster, which means that you can walk in on this. He tries to pin you, you sidestep it. You just use your shout, you back out again. Worst case scenario, you've made the Reinhardt not able to hold that one angle he wants to hold. And you've made your team able to just help you on your engage. Whereas right now, you're trying to fight a just losing battle. In general, if the next fight is going to happen very quickly, you don't want to shout out a spawn, because for the next 13, 14 seconds, you aren't actually able to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And the fight is going to happen before 14 seconds, because the barricade is like on you, and they're rotating through you with robot, which means that the next fight is looking like soon. If you had like worst spawn, like Hanzo, or like not Hanzo, Ana, then shouting is fine. But if you have like the forward spawn, not so fine anymore. And you did have forward spawn. Like in an ideal world, you could have held the corner over here, but you don't have shout, so you can't actually hold it anymore. Now you can try to hold it. Same thing with the knife. Just, if you're going to throw it into a Rein shield, don't throw it. Wait until you have a visual confirmation that Reinhardt is fire striking, so that you can land it. Because fire strike, you cannot shield in fire strike animation. Wait until you see the Reinhardt charging. You cannot shield in charge. Wait till you see Reinhardt swinging, because at least the shield is down then. You can kind of reactionary put the shield up, but that's fine. There's at least an opportunity. Wait until it breaks, or simply don't throw it at Reinhardt. Those are the scenarios. Okay, I will say I think that's a slight overkill to use Axe there, just because, again, I feel like that's a less than half HP anti Cassidy, and we could have probably just killed that. It's going to be fine in this scenario. We won the game, but don't get lazy. Like, don't substitute having to move your mouse with this has a massive hitbox. It's just easier. Okay, you now have an important decision to make. What's that important decision?
Do we disengage and go for next fight, or do we take this fight?
Absolutely. I think the answer has represented itself.
Yep.
Good. Don't mind us. My only grudge with the initiation here is that we used shout while we were kind of just stood on top of them instead of just walking in using the axe. We still didn't use. We didn't use the axe actually. We kind of just shouted and started shooting and trying to land knife for some reason. So my biggest grudge there would be just you could have just walked from pillar in. You could have axed. You could have sat there a little bit just trying to land a knife. But as soon as we start to think about using shout, it's time to GTFO. GTFO. Unless it's time to get further in. But I think we both know that that wasn't the case here. Amazing. The only thing we need to really care for here is that we need to force that Susu. Okay. Well, we now know what happens. It's okay. It's a bit mechanic issue there. I would say using your axe while you're here, assuming that someone might go through here, is a bit not so good because you're putting out your ability in the hopes that the one play where this will work is that I get to land it on someone here and we get a kill, or I get my bleed up and a little bit of healing up. But that's a very big if. Whereas if you had just sat here because they hadn't pushed you yet fully and waited with your axe, it's okay, but the Cassidy is there, and then you could go and actually just axe the Cassidy. But because you get panicked, I feel you get a little bit panicked, you just E immediately. Just I need to E now to keep myself up. But you would have probably maybe been able to lift this and get out if you had waited a little bit with that E and properly landed it. So take your time, especially when you are in the cover positions and they have to push you. Be smart about your ability usage. Don't just try to get anything out, because that's when you panic. That's when you start making silly mistakes instead of waiting for opportunities. Worst case scenario, you're dead anyway.
It's going to be a hero change.
I'm assuming we don't perhaps want to go over the D.Va. I'm assuming that's a bit of an overtime last kind of fight angle.
I wasn't picking it for the overtime. I was picking it because I was like, this is not a brawl comp. I should maybe stop trying to force brawl now. We've got a very slow team comp, and maybe we can make this work if we go for a regroup.
Mm-hmm. Could you name 2 tanks that would be fairly decent with this?
What, 2 other tanks?
Yeah, two. I'm thinking I have 2 tanks in my mind that would work fairly well with what your comp team has been playing here.
Are you thinking D.Va? Is D.Va one of them?
D.Va is not one of them.
Sigma.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely.
And Ramattra?
Perhaps I would not say when the. Yeah. There's one more. You could. I would say there's a very big angle for you to run the ball. It's a very big angle for you to run the Winston, and I would say there's even I would say the only thing I have with Sigma is that Sigma doesn't have enough speed really. You're
Yeah,
going
to play
to
on a push map. It's just too much
to
space.
it isn't and it is. The thing is, in comp, it's all about getting solo value, and if you're slow, it's harder for you to capitalize on solo value. In a scrim environment, I mean, you wouldn't do it in high tier, but you can definitely make it work in like a lower tier scrim. You could place the Sigma comp here, and it would be okay if you have a good team to back it up, right? In comp though, where it's all about what do you get out of your character, and it's very little about what does the team do together. Like, it's very little about synergistic behavior, as in it's very little about soldier off angling so that you can push in with D.Va, so that your Ana doesn't get pressured, so that you can build, you know, nano visor and you can defense matrix that nano visor in. It's very little about that because that entire thing will not happen. It might randomly happen, but it will not consistently happen. So therefore, Sigma is a bit questionable. I would say Ball or Monkey is probably your better options here. They have a very diveable few targets. Like Kiriko is guaranteed value. If you don't even kill her, you force Suzu guaranteed. You might even force TP. Cassidy, very diveable. Junkrat, if you have bubble, very diveable. If you have health on Wrecking Ball, very diveable. There's a lot of value to be had here. Do you even have a Discord on your team? You even have a Nano. So there's lots of diving opportunities. So that's just what I wanted to say. D.Va, I don't hate it. I don't think it's optimal, but I don't hate it. I think it's okay. D.Va's a strong character. Right? Do you have any questions before we close this one off?
What you thinking? I don't really know if we need to go for the D.Va. I think I'm just gonna, for now, one trick Junker Queen basically now, and just work on my Junker Queen. So I'm not too bothered about finishing off with D.Va.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I assume so. I'm asking, do you have any questions about? Like, is there anything here? Is there anything at all? Remember, it doesn't have to be about what we just talked about. Now is if there was anything that popped into your mind, and I was like, I wonder about this thing, then now's the time to ask it.
It's a very good question because I was wondering something and I forgot it. It was to do with Lucio speed boost with Junker Queen.
Okay. Yep.
It just seems like speeding past the Reinhardt as Junker Queen. Like, is that even viable in comp? Won't the Reinhardt just like kind of swing on us and just farm ult and then just use it on us?
Like using your own speed to speed past Reinhardt, or what do you mean?
I mean, if anything, if like a whole team, if a 5-stack in a scrim was to just speed past Reinhardt's face, could he not just pin into us and maybe land a pin or like fire strikers all, or like just running past him doesn't seem very safe for Junker Queen?
Well, so if you're playing in a scrim, if you're playing like Junker Queen comp, right? What you would be playing normally is you would be playing Junker Queen, you'd be playing Lucio, you'd be playing
Brig.
Kiri or Brick. Kiriko is kind of favored a little bit because back when Jungle Queen was meta, Kiriko wasn't out, and Kiriko is kind of busted, and
Yeah.
Cleanse is kind of busted, and so is Kitsune. You'd be playing brawl characters, Cassidy. Genji is not really a brawl character, but you play Genji, and the reason you play Genji is that Genji is actually fairly good into brawl because you can get close with Genji and you can use your deflect to just kind of like not really take any damage. Like, for example, if you deflect with Genji, you don't even get hit by Junker Queen Axe. So if you're playing like the mirror, Genji is fairly good there. You could play an Ana. It's an angle for an Ana too. Like an Ana Lucio. But the thing is that when you play in a scrim, you rotate between Junker Queen speed and Lucio speed. You prefer Lucio speed to get in, fairly self-explanatory. Lucio speed doesn't give everyone health. So that's why you don't want to use Jungle Queen speed to get in, because you're going to lose the overhealth by the time you're actually in. Now here's the thing though. It's a brawl comp, right? So now we can just brawl. Now we don't have to get past the Reinhardt anymore. This is just like if you're playing in a comp game, right? You can just brawl. But here's the thing though, right? Yes, he can just pin. But in what scenario, when you engage on a Reinhardt composition, can the Reinhardt not just pin? He can always just do that. You try to avoid the pin, right? Like, there's no different. If you're playing the Sigma composition, right, and you don't have Rock, can the Reinhardt not just pin you? Yeah, of course he can. He can just pin you. Now, here's the thing, though. We all know that reality isn't as simple as it is on the paper, because you're probably playing with your team, and you're probably putting a lot of pressure on this Reinhardt. So Reinhardt with like half shield and maybe lost HP probably doesn't think that charging and having no shield for a second is a good idea. And you might even be playing around a corner or a high ground where like he can't actually directly get to you without peeking wide open and losing more health, right? So the point is that reality is not just, you know, a sheet of paper. There's so much contextualization to it. So what I would say is that no, he cannot just charge you. Not if you're smart about it.
Okay. All right, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Notes as well, I guess. Pathing is going to be the big one.
Pathing is the big one. The big one is pathing to backline through flanks and rotations in order to land Axe and speed out. One big one. Don't get lazy with abilities. Don't get lazy with target priority. And let's get one last one. Your main objective is to land Axe on a squishy and live by using corners. Path corner to corner in order to live and land axes on squishies, and then use speed either to capitalize on a potential pick or to get the fuck out. Rinse and repeat.
Axe on squishies. Was that like the big one? Because I've already got the pathing.
Axe and squishies.
Okay. I'm gonna put axing squishies on engage.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Well, I'm gonna end the recording now.